So today I want to talk to boy moms, moms of boys. And I want to talk to you about, so I received a question on one of my videos a couple of days ago. So I'm going to read the question, give a little context, and then dive deeper into today's discussion. So this woman, she asked me in my comments, she said, "What advice can you give a single mom trying to raise a boy right? As someone who has been mistreated by men all of my life, I'm terrified of not getting it right and losing him to the patriarchal system." And she posted this question on a reel that I had made in response to some very intense, emotional, and somewhat mean comments that I've received from some women who have sons, who have boys, and who are frustrated with some of my recent content on Instagram talking about some of the behaviors of men and how those behaviors manifest and how those behaviors, of course, impact women and girls. And so I responded with a reel, not to this comment, but to some of the pushback I was receiving. I responded with a reel, essentially telling women that I don't care if you have a son because your sons are growing up to cause harm to women. And I'm going to continue to talk about the things that men do because my job is to help educate and illuminate for women what it is that they're up against so that they can protect themselves, heal, and create boundaries and again, protect themselves and protect their children from some of these toxic men that are walking around the planet right now. And so that video, of course, took off on Instagram, which I'm very grateful for. And the feedback from that has been really wonderful. And a lot of the boy moms were coming into my comments and saying, "Listen, I have sons and I feel you. I hear exactly what you're saying. I agree with you. I don't take crap from my sons. I make sure that they're not showing up in toxic and negative ways. I'm doing the best that I can," which I love. I love that because everything that I teach comes back down to radical responsibility for women and recognizing ourselves as the creators of this realm and the creators of, or the portals for consciousness to come through this realm. And so I firmly believe that it is up to women, it is up to the mothers of these boys to help shift the consciousness of the boys that are going to be growing into men and engaging with our daughters, our sisters, ourselves, our nieces, and all of the other women that we love and hold dear in our hearts. And so when she said, "What advice can you give a single mom?" Now, this advice applies to all moms of boys, not just single moms, but she happens to be a single mom. And essentially what I said in my reel was that I made a reel in response to this question, and because I felt like it was a really wonderful question. And what I said in the reel was, and keep in mind, the answer to this question is multi-layered. There are so many different angles that we can approach this from, and different there are different shifts and changes that women and men alike can make in order to bring up boys in a much more spiritually aligned way and in a much more heart-centered way than we are. But for the purposes of this question and the reel that I made and the purposes of this video, I'm just going to talk about one aspect. And what I said was that the most important thing that you can do as a mother of sons to raise your sons into men that respect, honor, and revere and love women is to be a woman who respects, honors, loves, and reveres herself. And to me, it seems so simple, right? But for a lot of women, it isn't simple because of all of the conditioning and brainwashing and male-centeredness that we're raised to be a part of. And so it's really hard it's hard for a lot of women to conceptualize that, especially if they've already had the children and they're still healing from a lot of the things that have happened to them by men. So for instance, this woman says, "As someone who's been mistreated by men all of my life," so all of her life, she's been mistreated by men. So there's a lot of wounding there that will then get projected onto her son. And so when I say that to raise a man or to raise a boy into a man who loves, honors, and respects and reveres women, you must be a woman who does all of those things for yourself. It's because your relationship with your inner masculine is what becomes encoded in the DNA of your son. And what you model to him as a woman, as a mother who is interacting and engaging with the external masculine will become the blueprint that he will then follow in how he engages with the external feminine. And so that means that if you are a woman who is constantly allowing mistreatment of men, you have men around you that your son or sons are also observing you being mistreated by, then that encodes into him that what these men are doing is appropriate behavior, because you as the feminine, you as the model of feminine consciousness for him is showing that this is what's acceptable. So women that are mistreated by men, or who overgive, overextend themselves, who, basically put themselves on the back burner in order to receive love from men or love from people in their lives, what it will do is it will teach your son that the feminine is designed to be in servitude to the masculine. And this is how boys grow up into men who then have all of these expectations that they place on women of this. These are the things you're supposed to do. You're supposed to cook, clean, take care of the kids, shut the hell up, do what I say, sleep with me when I want you to sleep with me, and anything else that I say to do, that is what you are designed for. And they feel that way, they think that way, they behave in that way because that's what's modeled to them. Not only through, of course, through the behavior of whatever men are around, if their father is around and treating them like that, but most importantly, it's modeled to them through their mothers and what their mothers accept and what their mothers allow. And we have to remember as women and as mamas that to our babies, we are God. Like, you are God to your babies, not your father, not the father of your babies, not the uncle of your babies, not the grandpa of your babies. You are God to your babies. And it's biologic. This is the biological imperative of the mother-baby relationship, is that you are essentially one soul, and they have to slowly gain their sense of independence and autonomy once they leave your womb. But your regulation, your nervous system, how you show up in the world is what regulates and sets the foundation for their nervous system and how they relate to the world. And so this starts in the womb. I mean, honestly, before they're in the womb, but especially when they're in the womb and you are growing them inside of your body. Everything that you think and feel about yourself, all of your concepts of life and of reality, of self-love or self-hatred, the things that you're experiencing externally, we think that because they're inside of us and we don't think that they're conscious or aware, but they are conscious and aware. They are very much being imbued with all of the energies that you are taking in as their mother. And so even when they're born and they're outside of you, there's still a very deep and powerful bond that they're still connected to, that is helping to shape their sense of self in this world. And what I'm saying applies to boys and girls. So I could do a whole other video about raising girls into women who love themselves and who revere themselves and respect themselves. It's the exact same blueprint, mama. And so for the purposes of this video, since we're just talking about boys, just remembering that what you feel about yourself, your relationship with your inner masculine, is what becomes reflected and encoded into your sons. And so how can you shift this dynamic? So it comes back to some of the same things that I've been sharing: setting boundaries, deepening your self-love, finding out what your wounds are and your belief systems, and really deconstructing why you feel the way that you feel about yourself. Deconstructing why you engage with men in the way that you engage with men, why you allow men to treat you the way that you treat them, and start making those shifts out of those old, distorted shadow behaviors into more sovereign, grounded, self-loving behaviors. So setting boundaries with the people in your life, honoring your sacred yes and your no within your body. And if you don't know where your sacred yes or your no is in your body and what that feels like, the sensations and the activations that happen around that, then discovering how to do that. That's something that I help my clients do. What else? Really taking inventory of the ways in which you show up for yourself or the ways in which you abandon yourself. So do you have goals? Do you have dreams? Do you honor the commitments that you set for yourself? Do you do the things that you say you're going to do? Not just for other people, because it's very easy for women to be in service to other people and to say yes to other people and do things for other people. But what about for yourself? If you say that you're going to be getting up early and you're going to be working out and eating right, or starting your business, or changing careers, or whatever it is that is a goal for you that is calling you forward into your higher self, are you honoring your commitment to these things? Because we talk about men's commitment, right? We talk about how they don't honor their commitments to us, or how they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or they're with us, but then they also want to be with other women. They're splitting their energy in a lot of ways. Where are you splitting your energy? All of these things are connected to your relationship with your inner masculine. Your inner masculine is your inner protector. He is the being, the energy, the frequency that guards your temple. So are you giving your body and your physical intimacy, or access to physical intimacy, to unworthy men? Are you accepting crumbs from men externally? Are you allowing men to talk to you crazy or to be abusive to you, whether it's emotionally, physically, or sexually? These are all of the things to start taking inventory of and taking stock of, and start making those necessary shifts, because your sons are watching you. They're watching you. And even if they don't agree or like what you're doing and what's happening to you, because there are a lot of boys that are very protective of their mamas and they don't like seeing their mothers hurt, they're still being negatively impacted by your lack of self-esteem and your lack of self-love and your lack of self-worth. And that to them is training them and teaching them who the feminine is to them externally. So all of the girls that they're interacting with, all of the women that they will be interacting with and engaging in relationships with, that's going to have an impact on how they see those girls and how they see those women. So for you to shift your relationship with your inner masculine, it goes back to setting those boundaries and standards, deconstructing the things that you've been believing about yourself that are simply not true, and they're not healthy, and they're not conducive to you modeling a healthy representation of the divine feminine for your sons. And it's important because a lot of boy moms, the reason why a lot of mothers of sons are getting a lot of heat and a lot of flack on social media is because we're seeing this, this codependency that a lot of women have with their sons. We're seeing a very unhealthy, somewhat emotionally incestuous relationship that women are having with their sons. And I'm not talking about like little boys, because they need a lot of emotional support and a lot of emotional care. I'm not saying like don't be emotionally connected to your sons. I'm not saying that at all. What I mean is this coddling that happens, that a lot of moms of sons do, where they treat their boys like these perfect little angels who can never do any wrong, and they don't want to correct them and steer them into proper behavior because they still have these subconscious beliefs of male superiority, or that the female, the feminine, is here to serve the male or to serve the masculine. And that distortion and how that gets projected onto these boys is one of the things that creates a lot of these monsters that are walking around destroying the lives of women and girls. And so as if you're someone who has been seeing content online and you're really frustrated by it, or you're feeling attacked by some of the things that women are saying about boy moms, or how boy moms are not beating the allegations, I want you to just pause and like really take inventory of how you are showing up in your relationship with your sons, especially if you have older sons who have a very firm sense of right and wrong, and who are old enough to understand how their actions impact other people, especially girls. So it's about really taking responsibility for what you are contributing to the co-creation of these dynamics between men and women. And so I understand that you guys are getting a lot of heat, and I'm not here to pile on, but I am here, just like I do in every other aspect of my work and every other aspect in the way that I talk to and teach women, is to shine a light on those shadows, to shine a light on the things that maybe you have not recognized, or are unwilling to recognize and unwilling to see about the way you are not only harming yourself, but you're harming your son by not honoring yourself and also holding them to the standard as they grow that's appropriate with their age of maturity to show up in a way that is embodied and loving and heart-centered and protective of the feminine essence in their lives. And so, this response that I put on my Instagram page, people are just like, yes, I hear you. I agree with what it is that you're saying. And as a mother of boys, this is very important. And for those of you out there who, are doing the work, who are holding those standards, who are healing yourselves so that you can embody a better role model for your sons to recognize as the feminine essence and how the feminine essence is to be engaged with, I applaud you, because I cannot, as someone who does not have children, I cannot imagine how difficult that job is for women in this current time to be doing that work to shift not only yourselves internally, but shifting so that your sons, or shifting the behavior of your sons and the consciousness of your sons so that they grow up into heart-centered, heart-led, fully embodied, divine masculine men. And I commend you for the work that you're doing. And even if this video is your first introduction to this concept and you have maybe been off course and this is your first, your very first reminder to course correct, I'm here for you. I'm holding you. I've got your back. Nothing that I'm saying is coming from judgment, but what I am saying is coming from love, and it's coming from a deep care for both women and men, because I don't like having to cuss your sons out and your baby daddies out when they're in my comments and talking crazy to me. I don't like to have to get feral with these men because of the way that they're showing up, but I have to show up in that way because these men are walking around disassociated, disconnected, disembodied, and disrespectful. Some of them are so disrespectful. And so, it's why I do this work. It's why I create my offerings, my workshops and courses, and my one-on-one work so that I can help women come out of that patriarchal conditioning that is leading women to continue to create. Every time I do this, I hit my straw. That is leading women to create and raise boys who are misaligned and distorted and abusive. And so if you're a mom watching this video and you want to dive deeper into that deconstruction, and you want to dive deeper into, showing up in your sovereign power, showing up as an embodied feminine to model something really powerful for your sons and your daughters. But again, this video is about the boys. Modeling this for your son so that they can see what the true essence of the divine feminine is, so that they can engage with that in a heart-centered way and also be connected to that essence within themselves, because boys carry the divine feminine essence within them also. They have their own internal feminine. And so it's not just important for how they treat women out in the world, it's also important for them establishing wholeness within themselves so that they're not rejecting the femininity within them, because a lot of boys reject the feminine aspects and the feminine essence within themselves because you as a woman are rejecting that, or you are operating from a shadow or distorted lens, which is repelling to the internal process that these boys are having. And so for them to be fully reconciled within themselves and honor the femininity within them so that they are resourced in terms of their emotional intelligence and their emotional expression and their creativity and softness and their, willingness to, form solid relationships and community, a very communal mindset, all of these things are connected to that feminine expression within them that gets shut off or suppressed because they don't have an embodied example of it in their lives, and specifically through their mother, which, as I've said at the beginning or closer to the beginning of this video, you are the core representation of the divine feminine for them. To them, especially when they're really, really tiny, before society gets its hooks and claws into them, you are God to your baby boy. And so for them being a whole being who's connected to, you know, their feminine as well as their masculine, it is so important for you to do this work, mama. It's so important for you to do this work to heal and to be fully integrated and expressed and whole within yourself, so that you can raise sons that are whole, so that they're not going out into the world and trying to extract that essence of the feminine externally because they're disconnected from it within themselves. So as I was saying, if you are a mom of boys or a mom of girls, but especially if you're a mom of a boy and you realize that you have not been showing up in a fully embodied way and you're not modeling an embodied divine feminine essence for your son, then I want you to come into my immersion that begins on January 7th. It is my Selfish Bitch initiation, where we are going to be deconstructing all of these patriarchal concepts, the concepts of the good girl and overgiving and people pleasing and being obedient to the system, and all of the frameworks in society that are designed to keep you in this space of being disembodied and not fully rising into your sovereign feminine expression, which is so important for your sons and for your daughters. So the Selfish Bitch initiation will take you from that overgiving, people-pleasing, obedient good girl and bring you into the sovereign woman who shows up in her power, who serves as a powerful and beautiful and aligned example of the divine feminine for your children to learn from, model, and for them to either express or to be in service and reverence and deep love and respect for externally. That initiation begins on January 7th. The link is in the description box and I'll put it in the comments below. And I just want to thank you so much for being here and listening to this video. I'm loving all of your feedback. I'm loving all of your comments. So let me know in the comments how this landed for you. If you're a mom of sons, I really want to know how you feel about this and what are some of the changes that you're making, or is this your first introduction to this concept and is it blowing your mind and you're realizing some of the work that needs to be done? Let me know in the comments. And if this, whether this is your first time or your 20th time or 200th time visiting my channel, I am so grateful for your time, for your attention, for your engagement. If you have a moment, please drop me a comment. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I've been dropping videos every single day, and I will see you tomorrow on the next video.